Let me be blunt with, you say it's always blunt. No, I'm not. Let me be blunt. With the Liberal Party in the wilderness across Australia, it cannot afford a leader in Victoria like this unknown John Pesutto, a mad lefty, heading the party in the state which was once described as the jewel of the Liberal crown. Pesutto represents the simple problem of the Liberal Party. If you try to imitate the other side, the voter will choose the other side. On Saturday, March 18, there was a peaceful women's rally on the steps of the Victorian Parliament. It was a simple but important cause in support of retaining and defending women's rights in the face of relentless efforts by a minority of transgender activists to effectively obliterate women's rights and hand them over to trans women. Now, I don't know anyone who has a problem with trans women, biological men who say they are women. The problem is when such people seek to occupy women's change rooms, play women's sport, and inhabit spaces reserved for the safety of women. Now, that surely is pretty basic stuff. One of the organisers of the rally was the Liberal member of the Victorian Upper House, Moira Deeming. She's a former teacher. In her maiden speech to the Victorian Parliament, she called for, quote, an open inquiry into gender affirmation practices, unquote, involving minors. She described hormonal and surgical interventions as, quote, medically unjustifiable, irreversible, and devastatingly harmful. And she added, and I quote, yet ideologues continue to vilify and incite hatred towards anyone who sounds the alarm, unquote. Moira Deeming was elected on a platform where she insisted on reclaiming the sex-based rights of women and girls. She talked about her trouble as a high school teacher and mother to understand the implications of gender ideology in the curriculum. She was very concerned that teachers were being told in an Andrews-led system in Victoria that they could, that's teachers, could enable the social transition of students to the opposite sex for students as young as 12 without parental knowledge or approval if the child were deemed to be, quote, a mature minor. Moira Deeming is sensibly drawing attention to international concerns that gender ideology in schools is creating a pipeline to gender clinic medicalisation. She stood for Parliament because she said, quote, I didn't want to be involved in telling a child that medicalised gender change was good. She said, I didn't want to be involved in confusing a child. I didn't want to be involved, she said, in lying to parents. I felt I was being used by the government to push an ideology behind parents' backs, which was not anywhere near close to being harmless, unquote. Moira Deeming. Well, back to the rally on March 18. A few ugly thugs saw an opportunity to hijack the event. Typically in Victoria, there was some odd policing. The Victorian police held back the trans activists who arrived to disrupt the rally, but there were 15 to 20 young men, mostly masked, throwing Nazi salutes, and they just seemed to have entry to the rally facilitated. It caused the rally to disperse early. Back then to this fool Liberal leader, Pesutto, who abandoned any sense of Liberal principles and followed the Andrews political line, which sought to argue that Moira Deeming was part of a rally supported by Nazis. Typical Andrews stuff. So out came Pesutto, not a leader's bootlace. And quite frankly, talking about boots, he should be booted out of the leadership. Said Pesutto, quote, I will never ever accept any member of the Parliamentary Liberal Party under my leadership ever associating with anybody who shares a platform with people who peddle hate, division and attack people for who they are. You dope. Shared a platform, you're a fool, Pesutto. Moira Deeming was nowhere near sharing anything with these Nazi interlopers. Pesutto's response was straight out of the Andrews playbook, except this was Pesutto, the supposed Liberal leader. Moira Deeming had nothing to do with the Nazis, and nor was Moira Deeming condemning transgenderism. The rally was about protecting safe spaces for biological women. But this non-Liberal, non-leader, Pesutto, tried to expel Moira Deeming from the Liberal Party. He failed. And now she's suspended from the party for 9 months, a time, I might add, of special significance to women. If the Liberal Party thought it didn't have a problem with women before, it certainly has one now. But the biggest problem is how someone like this fellow Pesutto could ever become leader of a modern Liberal Party. Give the job to Moira Deeming. She's arguing common sense